Welcome into this edition of Inside Tiger Football, brought to you by Rib Crib. Glad to have, of course, head coach Josh Blankenship on the show again for this week's segments. Chance to look at, of course, week number 2's game against Fayetteville. Came out on the wrong end of it, 30-23, but looking at a little bit of your initial reaction to the game, having had a chance to watch film on that game, what has maybe changed from your initial reaction to the game to now settling in for week number 3?
Now I feel like I know what team I have, and where we've really got to grow. Going all the way back to the spring, I felt like we had a chance to be pretty good. We played our spring game, a little bit more of a nudge into starting to kind of believe we could be pretty good. We go through our fall camp and our scrimmages, still trending like I think we can be a very dynamic team. Go win the first game, which was huge. But I don't think I ever said it out loud or articulated it, but I really was waiting on this test against the state champs from Arkansas to really see where we were at. And for 3 quarters, we were better than them. But it's a 4-quarter game, sometimes more. And, there's a lot of learning that's taken place over the weekend and into this week. And a lot of it's showing them what a state champ looks like. They're what we want to be, what we're trying to grow into, and even pointing out some things of their resiliency, their leadership rising up in the 4th quarter, the way they tackled and hit and ran to the football in the 4th quarter was something impressive and something that we can learn from. But I'm more convinced now of what we are, and it's exciting. Now, we still got work to do, obviously, but I'm grateful that we got to have that opportunity in the non-district, and it wasn't a critical district game that affected the playoffs.
Yeah, that leads me into my next question. You mentioned it at the end of the game, of course, in your post-game interview. In paraphrase, you were glad that it wasn't a district game because you did see some things that this team needed to clean up, and maybe what would have been the difference in picking up a victory. What sort of led you to that conclusion? What were some things you were seeing that right out of the gate here this week at practice you're going to be able to address to this group?
The way the guys are practicing right now is their response to what is a disappointing loss, a missed opportunity is the way we feel. We had a chance to choke them out metaphorically, and we didn't finish. The guys, sometimes if you get blown out, it's hard to reel your kids back into believing how close they really are. The kids know we had an opportunity, and it was a missed opportunity. So they're sponges right now. They're flying around in practice, which is the way I thought they'd respond. So we continue to finish this week off with a great week of practice, and that'll set us up to go play well on the road on Friday.
Speaking of course, the end of that game, a little bit of chippiness at the end of that game. Talk about the emotions, especially at a high school level, to just keep your team in control. Not only are you looking to control your own coaching staff's emotions at that moment, yourself, so that you can make the right kind of call, but just your players at the end of the day. It's an important game, but it's an important game to get through and to get everybody ready and eligible for the next week.
Yep, still learning opportunities. We had a situation in a 1-minute drill there at the end where they had 2 personal fouls, which would have amounted to a 30-yard swing of the field, putting us in their territory in a 1-minute drill. And then one of our guys got caught up, John, with another guy, and so we got a flag that negated one of them. Missed opportunities, sophomore with a false start on a critical 3rd and 3. And then loved our play call on 3rd and 3, did not love our 3rd and 8 play call. Situations like that the only way you learn is in those moments, and hopefully our guys will learn.
Looking at the defense in particular, 4 straight quarters of shutout football dating back to the second half of game number 1 of the season and the first half of game number 2. I mean, that's a shutout over the course of a 60-minute game. What maybe stood out in those 4 quarters over these 2 games stood out to you? I mean, you don't really get that very often out of a team at the high school level, it would seem, 4 straight quarters of shutout ball, unless maybe it's a program that's not quite ready to go. But you went up against Harbor and Fayetteville in that process. What stood out in those 4 quarters maybe compared to the others?
2 really good offenses. So, who we're executing against is no slouch and arguably elite offensively. Those Northwest Arkansas schools pride themselves on their offense, and for us to play the way we played, like you said, carrying over from the previous game, 4 quarters. Now, it's not the right sequence of 4th quarters. We got to string them together in a game, but a shutout's obviously more than you could even hope for. But that's the expectation of those guys going out there. What's really stood out is Kole Lamont. He is a beast, and he is the bell cow of that group. He's the leader. We've got to get everybody else flying to the football like he is. There were many times that he made a phenomenal play, but there wasn't anybody else there. And we've got to continue to push our guys to fly to the football.
Speaking of that as well, looking at the secondary for your team, Fayetteville had a quarterback that plays for Minnesota now, D1 opportunity. He leaves. Garrett Odom takes over the task there for this group. He's also a deep ball threat, but the secondary really kept that limited in a sense that there was no deep pass that was completed to my recollection. Kept everything in front of the sticks, it seemed, on the passing game. Really had to work and rely a lot on Christian Battles, their running back. Talk about your secondary a little bit.
Phenomenal job of doing what they're coached to do. The style we play on defense in the back end it can rattle a QB, especially with the pressure that we bring. So you got guys flying around you trying to knock your head off, and then you've got the secondary putting together these weird combinations of coverage that are hard to recognize and can rattle a guy. And we had him pretty rattled. But to his credit, coach's kid, committed to UNLV right now. He was a warrior too, and they decided to completely change up their game plan in the second half. And I don't know if they threw the ball in the second half. It was all Q run and their big back, and they decided that was how they were going to muscle their way to finish the game. And credit to them.
Message to your defense here as we wrap up the segment going into week 3. There are some things that are highlights for this group, but what can be sealed up for week 3 to have a full effort?
Team pursuit. Flying to the football. We've got to have everybody around the football when the ball it gets out on the perimeter, when the ball creases something, it gets into space. We've got to improve there. We've got guys making good plays, but we've got to fly to the football for 4 quarters plus.
We chatted about the defense. We will chat, of course, about the offense when we come back here on this edition of Inside Tiger Football, brought to you by Rib Crib. We'll be back after this.
It's an important score. Everyone is anxious to know. That's why our TTCU app can help you improve your credit score. TTCU Federal Credit Union. Life is better in balance.
For families who like to build their wealth while staying liquid, we have flexible rate CDs to keep your funds working hard, even when you're not. First National Bank of Broken Arrow. The right balance.
Welcome back to Inside Tiger Football, brought to you by Rib Crib. We're here with head coach Josh Blankenship. Chance to talk to you a little bit about the offense. Now, there are a variety of weapons in the backfield for you as far as the running game goes. Love to have Roberson back there along with Castillo. But you also have the sophomore Lawless as well. Talk about feeding all 3 of those guys, getting them what you believe is the right kind of playing time in the right kind of moments, and keeping everybody hungry within that system. It's nice to have depth that you have that you're able to use at the varsity level, because it keeps everybody, needing to keep their job at the end of the day.
Competition at position is critical, and we had a long conversation about that as a staff, not even related to those guys, just some other places where we've got to really be coaching up the next guy in the depth to keep that competition hot, so a guy doesn't get complacent. But at that running back group, those guys have learned and fallen in love with playing for one another, and they really do treat themselves as a 3-headed monster. They're all gifted in different ways, and they bring something unique, each of them. Octavian is very, very special, and he's the head and shoulders #1 guy. And then the next guy in is either the thumper, Giovanni is a guy that we want to, just crush the A-gap with, and obviously he can do some other things as well, but that is his MO. And then you've got Lawless, who's more of your smooth, press the line of scrimmage, find a crease, great zone runner, great power runner, great counter runner. He's got patience, but he's got patience up in the line of scrimmage, not sometimes young guys will want to paddle to the feet in the backfield, and he gets up in it and then finds it. Has good hands as well. But all 3 of them bring unique pieces. They're all still expected to know all of it. But we're very excited about that group, especially how they play together and for each other.
talking to Coach Mo a little bit. Of course, he's doing color commentary on our broadcast on ArrowVision now. He mentioned that Lawless is maybe the most pure running back that this program has. He's just a sophomore. Go a little bit in deeper on this kid. We even caught up with him a little bit after the game. I mean, smile ear to ear, just being able to get into the end zone for the first time this year. He's excited about that. It means a lot to this kid to play at the varsity level. And what do you see out of him maybe as his potential for his future?
Very gifted. Mo's 100% right. He's got all the characteristics that you want in a running back. What I just described about how he runs the ball, but he catches the ball well, very well. He's very intelligent. He understands pass pro, does a great job. He's fearless in pass protection. You name it, he's good at it as a running back. Credit to him and his preparation from the moment he got here in the offseason. Those guys coming over from the 9th grade, all of a sudden in January, we treat them like sophomores. And then they go through that offseason, really their first offseason with the varsity, go through spring ball, really their first spring practice. And then all summer, he did a great job of preparation. Very pleased with him and his skill set, no doubt.
I want to talk about Satemba because I did see a little bit of growth mentally with him, I think, as the game went along, right? He's a junior this year. He faced adversity early on, not just, of course, in things off the paper, but on paper as well, the interception. What did you see out of Satemba in response, not just as the quarterback in particular, but as the leader outside of maybe those white lines in the moment?
I think my favorite moment was in the 1-minute drill where he decided he was going to try and scramble out and punch it into the end zone, and he literally got his head knocked off. Helmet went flying. There was a penalty, and I'm calling for one of our backup QBs to get ready. But I'm watching him, and because there's a flag, he doesn't have to come out with his helmet off because of the flag. So I'm watching him, and he gets up, he flips his hair back, puts his helmet on, starts jogging back to the huddle. That was my favorite moment. He could have tapped out, and he could have said, that was too violent, I need a break. He wanted to finish off the drive and get us in the end zone. Especially in response, like you said, he throws a pick early. And a little flustered. This is the first time he was getting hit that much. The game before, we completely kept him clean. I don't know if he was touched. And then this game, they were very physical with him and getting those shots on him when they could. And he did a great job of settling down and doing what we needed to do to put us in position to possibly win that game.
Tayshawn Jones-Wade really kind of highlighted game one, I thought, in the wide receiver corps. Zane Matthews-Boudreau, especially early in the game, got involved a ton. You have two options there that really are heavy, and Keaton Johnson is involved in that process as well. When you can have not just one guy, it opens up the floor for everybody because you don't just have to pay attention to one guy. Right. Talk about how important it is to mix that up each week if they can pull that off. Look, you can call the play, but they've got to go make the play at the end of the day.
And they know that, and they want that. It's awesome to watch Zane's development. Because everybody in the state knows who Tayshawn is. So even in the Fayetteville game, as expected, they took their best corner, and most of the game were following Tayshawn wherever he went. So we were in kind of a chess match of where we were putting Tayshawn to control where that corner was. With the game that Zane had and the speed and the threat down the field that he poses, we don't have to play those games as much because we can have a somewhat of a vertical threat. I don't mean somewhat. They're just different. One is pure speed and one is a physical problem. So now to have that on both sides, in addition to what we've got in Keaton Johnson as a phenomenal clutch possession receiver most of the times at the slot. And then we're getting Deshaun Jordan back, who started a bunch of games for us last year as a 9th grader. He's been out with mono, and he's back practicing this week. He adds another threat to that group. You add all that with what we believe our identity is in the box and how physical and strong and big we are in the run game. That poses problems for people with those kind of weapons out there, especially when Jeremiah's clicking.
Well, it's nice to hear that, of course, Deshaun's going to be back in the fold here. Positive news on the front of week number 3. Quick message, of course, before we wrap up this segment for your offense. Adjustments that need to be made maybe out of your group. You don't have to spoil anything by any means, but what did you see out of your offense through first 2 weeks?
A lot of good. I think, the first game you saw a lot more points and a lot more success, but that defense wasn't as strong as the one. We saw a very elite defense on Friday night against Fayetteville. I mean, very physical. their nose guard we knew was going to be a problem, and he played really well. They've got a bunch of linebackers and safeties that fly around and are very physical. So we did a lot of good things. I think the evidence of not shooting ourselves in the foot is there on film. Missed opportunities if we're not dialed in, situational football, knowing when you got to get the first down versus stepping out of bounds, different things that are very teachable, all correctable. And so I'm pleased with more our response after the game than our production in the game, because we're fully capable of doing more than we did. And again, the word that keeps coming up before the game and after the game is opportunity, and we've got to take advantage of opportunities.
Opportunity indeed. We'll talk about a couple of opportunities, of course, for some players on the team when we do come back here on Inside Tiger Football. We'll get to our players segment. We've got Tayshawn Jones-Wade in the house, as well as Kole Lamont, a couple of leaders on this team. We'll be back. Inside Tiger Football, brought to you by Rib Crib.
Introducing QT Pay, the easiest way to transform every trip, every treat, and every gallon into instant savings every time you pay. All within the QT app. QT Pay. It just makes sense.
Hello, Tulsa. Shields All Sports Store is opening October 19th at the Woodland Hills Mall. Join us in the parking lot for the grand opening party at 7 a.m. with doors officially opening at 9:30. Step inside to the ultimate retail experience. Shop your favorite brands, meet our Shields experts, and enjoy entertainment like a Ferris wheel or Fuzzywigs Candy Factory. Whether you love the great outdoors, sports, or fashion, Shields has something for you. Join us for Shields grand opening on October 19th.
At Ascension St. John, you'll find advanced heart care, brain and spine care, and personalized cancer care. And we excel just as much in the things that can't be measured. Listening more closely, caring more compassionately.
Welcome back to this edition of Inside Tiger Football, brought to you by Rib Crib. We're excited, of course, for our player segment on the show. Of course, a couple of prominent guests for sure. Wide receiver junior Tayshawn Jones-Wade, as well as, of course, linebacker Kole Lamont, senior this year. Guys, thanks for coming on, being a part of this. I wanted to grab you guys early. Really glad that Coach Blankenship was able to get you guys on early in the season. We're going to get to see a lot out of you guys as the year goes along, for sure. Just talk a little bit about football being back for you guys and how exciting it is, not only to be back with your players, but an optimistic season compared to last.
I would say, I like to see how we do this year after coming off last season. I think we responded well with Harbor, and then last week was a tough test. But I mean, a loss isn't always a loss; it's a lesson. So, yeah.
I'm really excited with the off season and all the work we put in this off season. I was really excited to get back, and I'm glad it's here now because our team, we have a pretty good team, and we're well put together, and we have a really tight bond.
Well, let's look at, again, that game last week. 7A state champions in the state of Arkansas, Fayetteville. You guys hung with them, of course, the entirety of the game, controlled the majority of the game. It just slipped away a little bit there. I think this might be the first and the last time you guys are in a 2-0 game at one point, right? I mean, 2-0 after the end of one. Have you ever seen anything like that, in your days playing football? At the end of the day, it was an odd way to get the scoring started, but it was a fun way to get the scoring started for sure. You could tell, of course, the Jungle Squad, everybody was behind that moment.
Yeah, it was just so perfect because C Green, our punter, he put it right on that half-inch mark, and we got it done. I've never seen anything like that in my life, so it was just really fun to see.
Yeah, I mean, we just found a way to get points on the board, and that matters.
Looking back, of course, at game number 1, a victory over Harbor. Both of you guys played a very pivotal role in that. Kole, of course, leading the team in tackles in that game. Quite a few for a loss as well. Tayshawn, you also produced quite a bit for sure. Getting into the end zone, just talk about setting the tone for your seasons this year. You've got some time to grow, Kole. This is your moment to make that impression for sure in your senior year, and talk about victory number 1.
I felt like first half we kind of came off a little slow, but we made adjustments and we came out there and we played as a team, and everybody was hyped. I mean, we were going, and you can't really stop us when we're like that.
Yeah, I could piggyback off that. We came out kind of flat first half, and then our coaches just rallied us together, and our leaders did too in the locker room. When we came out second half, just ready to go through the adversity and just play our butts off.
What's it been like playing underneath Coach Blankenship? Uniqueness maybe about him as your coach in your later years in high school. You guys have been brought up through the game with all kinds of different voices in your head, you could say. People guiding you through the game, whether it be parents, volunteers, of course, full-time coaches throughout your careers. Just talk a little bit about him and what he's meant to you guys and how much he has a vision for you guys here this season.
He's always pushing us to be the best versions of ourselves on and off the field. We make covenants, it's not always just about football, it's about life, and he really pushes us to be the best in everything we do.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. Like on the field, he's typical head coach, like a true leader, someone you could look up to and play for. And off the field, he wants you to be wants to grow you into a man, not just a football player, but like a true, like a dad or like a husband, something like that.
Yeah, speaking of life, of course, you guys have a life outside of the game of football. Let everybody know just a little bit about who Tayshawn Jones-Wade is outside of the football field, as well as Kole Lamont outside of the football field. You guys, of course, have aspirations for going to college and making something out of yourselves, maybe being on the other side of this table at some point. Who knows? But talk about your aspirations outside of the game and what you see yourself doing with your future, whether it be the game of football and some alternatives as well.
I for sure want to go to college, for sure. I don't know where, I don't know. But definitely want to go to college, play at the next level, and then hopefully God gives me the opportunity to play in the NFL, for sure. But yeah, that's on me.
After this, I wrestle too, so I'll go to wrestling, and then after my senior year, I will hope to go play college football somewhere. I'm not sure yet, but that's my goal.
That is the goal of everybody, and it should be the goal for everybody. You want to excel at what you do and what you're passionate about the most, and talk a little bit about that journey and that process. Your coaches are on your behalf all the time, whether it be your wrestling coaches, of course, your football coaches, talking to colleges, trying to get names out there. What's that process like? You're studying, you're working on your homework, you're getting things done like that, but you're also in the back of your mind thinking about the next level. Talk about that mixture of focus that you have to have and focusing on now, but also opening up your opportunities.
I think just really doing your job in the moment in games will get you there. Just your film, I think, is all you, and going out there and playing and doing your best is what will get you there.
Yeah, putting out your best effort at all times, showing what you can do when you get the ball and when you don't, like blocking and running the right routes, stuff like that. And then like with schoolwork, you just have to like keep your time management very well, and yeah.
Well, it goes a long way. You guys, I think, have the right mindset. Look, you can make plays on deep routes, but if you can't block on a screenplay, nobody's going to look at you, right? Same thing with you. You've got to be able to cover downfield, not just be able to make plays in the trenches at the end of the day, come up and filling holes. You guys have that correct mindset as far as getting to the next level. A lot of other athletes on this campus have mindsets like that as well. There's all kinds of people that get to watch your games. Talk about maybe your favorite sport to go watch outside of football. Of course, you go support your classmates. You go check them out, whether it be on the diamond or at the track meet, anywhere. What do you guys like to go see?
Well, I also wrestle, so probably wrestling. If that doesn't count, then
we won't count that one since you're still involved in it.
I've been around baseball for a long time, so I understand the game really well, and I enjoy watching baseball.
I say basketball. The basketball games are always super fun. Just seeing the people in the stands and having all your friends there, just watching, for sure.
Looking at this year, of course, 1-1, have a chance to take on Mustang upcoming. That's an important game for sure. First road test. It's so much more fun, in my opinion, growing up playing sports, to be on the road. For whatever reason, you love home games, you love to be in front of your home crowd, but getting on that bus, something about being around your guys. Talk about the journey just being on the road and how much closer you can build to your teammates.
It definitely is fun because it's an experience that not everyone gets to get, and just being around your guys like that is always a good time.
Yeah, going on the road. It's a true test to see where you're at. It's always a mental thing, especially on the bus. Like, you can't be playing around. You gotta just lock in and be ready for the game ahead of you, and like really just go out there and show them how we play on their field.
And finally here, if you had a message just to Tiger Nation in this season, it was a 3-8 year last year, made playoffs and barely lost to Norman. Looking at this year, it's early, but it's focusing on being 1-0 every week, right? What is that message to Tiger Nation from you guys and where you sit today?
Just stay tuned. We're going to work, and we're going to have a good season this year.
Yeah, stay tuned. Just stay tuned.
Stay tuned indeed. Guys, I want to thank you, of course, for coming on the show today. It is a chance to take on Mustang this week. It's going to be the first road test of the year. Of course, the 7 o'clock kickoff set for that one. And again, guys, we can't thank you enough for being on. We'll be back here on Inside Tiger Football, brought to you by Rib Crib. We'll wrap up our final segment with Coach Blankenship previewing Mustang. We'll be back.
Tulsa Bone and Joint, Northeast Oklahoma's sports medicine experts. We are pleased to help you and the athletes in your life with a number of surgical and non-surgical options. Tulsa Bone and Joint is proud to serve as team orthopedist for local high schools such as Broken Arrow, Owasso, Sapulpa, Cascia Hall, and Bishop Kelly. We're also proud to be team orthopedist for FC Tulsa. Tulsa Bone and Joint, moving life forward.
Around the clock, throughout eastern Oklahoma, we're devoted to improving the health of our communities, our home. We are your friends and neighbors. We are the people of St. Francis.
Your side hustle keeps you moving. We'll help you get where you really want to go. TTCU Federal Credit Union. Life is better in balance.
Welcome back to this final segment of Inside Tiger Football. This week brought to you by Rib Crib. Chance to look at the upcoming matchup against Mustang. Nobody wants to mess with Mustang on paper, of course, after week one, what they showed against UConn. But UConn's not necessarily the top dog in this district by any means. Going up against, of course, some family as well for you. That's a unique opportunity for you. Talk a little bit about going up against family. It's got to be fun. It's got to be interesting. We see it a lot in sports for sure, but actually to be able to be involved in it is a totally different animal.
Yeah, I still don't know how to describe it, the feeling or the emotion. I would say it is fun all off season because, you know, you talk all the time and you try to figure out maybe things we could do in team camp, and you're sharing ideas of things that you're doing in the off season, and you're really for one another. And now you're not. And that's odd. And I don't know how to describe it, but it's not fun. It's just weird. But putting that aside, which I think I've gotten better at, having gone against my own dad for a few years, learning how to handle that, you got to just completely put it aside. Just like you're telling your kids, it's about us. It's not about all that other stuff. That's for people to write about and talk about, and that can be fun for others. But for us, we're focused on the Broken Arrow Tigers and the fact that we got to go on a road trip to go play a game against a good team, a team that we're familiar with from team camp. So there's a lot of challenges that the road brings. You know, how we travel, different environment, different fans that are going to overpower our fans. You know, different band, probably no band for us. It'll be crickets on our sideline. But it's just a unique situation, and we've got to see how professional we are about taking what we do on the road. Does our toughness, does our discipline, does our execution, does our focus, do all those things travel with us, or are we going to leave them here at the locker room?
That's something that I wanted to bring up too. You've got a good leadership core that's been on the bus, right? That's been through those road games. We actually asked, of course, our players on the players segment about traveling on the road. I always said growing up playing sports, I preferred it a little bit. Something about the bond going on the road with your boys, knowing that you're going into a barn that's not going to be friendly. Talk about professionalism. You played at the pro level, of course, with the Talons as well. There's a lot of bus rides in that league for sure, without a doubt. You've been on plenty of buses in your career. There is a form of professionalism that has to be there in order to prepare right.
It's a funny balance because you, like you mentioned, your greatest memories from when you played probably came on the bus. The most hilarious conversations, the greatest moments. Now, if we're really nitpicking that and getting specific, it was after a win. You know,
right?
Those were the best bus rides. Were post-win. So we've got to balance, you know, being comfortable, resting, but also it is a business trip that we've got to be focused and do things the way we know we're supposed to do them on the ride there.
Looking now, of course, at Mustang, what does a Mustang team do well in your eyes so far? I looked at their game. Of course, they're an empty set in their first drive of the game, running the ball on designed QB plays constantly. They're heavy up front as well. They do a great job of sort of sucking teams down into man-on-man and getting one-on-one battles deep. This Mustang team can provide it in a variety of ways. What challenges did they show for Broken Arrow this week?
I think you nailed it. I think they do a phenomenal job on their staff of finding the identity or what their identity needs to be. Specifically on offense, they've got a huge QB. I mean, he's a 6'3", thick, muscled-up guy. He throws the deep ball well, so when they do get those one-on-ones, they're going to take their shots. But what they have found clearly through the summer, since we saw him in the spring, what they found is he might be their best runner. And when they can spread out kind of those old Baylor splits with the receivers, really stretch the box or the apex between the box and those guys, put guys in conflict to try and get those one-on-ones or those now screens, do it out of empty because he can carry the ball and they get a numbers advantage. That's what we've got to answer the call on. And especially if they watched our film and what Fayetteville found at the end of the game was very similar to what I think they want to be. So we'll have our work cut out for us with their offense. I definitely believe that's their strength. And then their coaching staff, very, very smart group. I think they will appropriately approach this as a little bit of an underdog because we're so familiar with each other. I think we need to, what we're talking about with our kids, we've got to expect every trick, every gadget, every fake, every onside, anything they can do to every 2-point play, anything they can do to steal points, steal possessions, I would bet is their mindset. And they're already an aggressive staff anyway, similar to what we do. And then that's just the way we play. But I think I think if I was them, that's got to be part of their game plan, and we need to expect all those things.
2-point conversion, of course, on the first touchdown of the game for them, and that onside to follow up.
Yep.
Just as you mentioned, they will bring it early in the game and not just late when they're in desperation. Looking at the defensive side of the game, they did go up against UConn. They can spread the field with the spread offense in a sense, but they do have a big defensive line. They were able to, record quite a few sacks as well as get into the backfield quickly. Talk about that defensive line and how important it can be trying to spread the field around those guys.
They've really figured some things out on defense since we saw them in the spring. They've got 2 new D linemen that really help them tremendously up front. Again, I'm also familiar with that UConn staff, worked with a bunch of those guys, and they're really smart offensive guys. So for Mustang to be able to shut down what they were trying to do on offense in that UConn game was impressive. We've got to wipe the slate clean of our memory of what we think we know about them from spring, and we've got to number one, focus on us, and we've got to do what we do. We've got to continue to be physical in the box. We've got to set the tempo and the tone of physicality as opposed to allowing them to do that.
Wrapping up Inside Tiger Football with head coach Josh Blankenship. We want to thank you, of course, for coming on the show each and every week. It has been a fun one again. It is Mustang, of course, at 7 o'clock this weekend, Friday night. It's going to be the 3rd game of the year. A 1-1 record, looking to go 2-1. First test on the road. This has been Inside Tiger Football, brought to you by Rib Crib. We'll wrap things up